River of Grass Unitarian Universalist congregation, where our mission is to nurture our spirits, love intentionally, and create a just and healthy planet in our enduring search for truth, meaning, and faith. What we share here is not an unchanging dogma, but an affirmation that we are called to be agents of love and justice, and to build a world where everyone is cherished for who they are. If you are a member here, we rejoice that you have made your home here. If you are a friend, we hope that you'll find your home here. If you are a visitor, we invite you to feel at home here. Please linger with us after the service in our hospitality area so we might get to know each other. I am Barbara Ratchford. I'm he, she, and I serve this beloved community in a lot of small but important ways. I do this, I usher, I'm a member of the membership committee, I'm a greeter, I'm a facilitator, and one day I even vacuumed when they needed some help. You never know, but it all counts. Feel free. Later this morning, we will hear about events and opportunities for service, action, and fellowship here at the River of Grass. To learn more about this congregation or about Unitarian Universalism, just ask. We all row this river together.
In the 12th century, the plague was about. And there was a Catholic anchoress named Julian of Norwich. An anchoress is someone who lived in a stone cell, a box, attached to a cathedral, through which she could get her sacraments and teach others. In the midst of the plague, when everyone she knew had died, and she had been ill 3 times herself, she came from a vision and said, I see that all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. She noted that vision didn't say when, just said that it would be. If she, in the middle of the plague, can say such a thing, so can we. This has got some hearts. We want you to join us. This is your part. All shall be well. All shall be well. That's all it is. All shall be well. All shall be well. All shall be well. All shall be well. Keep singing. All shall be well. 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 All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. However you made your way here this morning, we say this every week. It means different things at different times, but this morning, however you made your way here this morning, oh goodness, thank you. We want you keeping yourself safe. We know that we came in today with the things that run through our lives all the time. Some of us have broken hearts, some of us have hungry hearts, some of us have searching hearts, some of us have happy hearts, and right now most of us have stressed out hearts. We welcome you as you are, who you are, in this place and in this time. And we are here this morning holding this last service in person for a while to assure you once again that we are maintaining physical distance, but social connection. So all over the news, social distance, social distance. Let's rethink this. Physical distance, social connection. I do things with my body because it helps me remember. Physical distance, social connection. We're going to find all kinds of new ways to connect. We're so grateful that you came here this morning to connect with us in this way. Keep yourself safe, and we will keep you safe as well. Whoever you are, however you are, we welcome you as you are, and we will move through this together, whatever that brings, for each of us and for all of us.
We light this chalice, not because we must, but because we may. We light this chalice, not because we have the truth, but because we each come bearing and seeking many truths. We light this chalice in connection across culture, distance, class, and language. We light this chalice that our religion may be a beacon of light, hope, and justice. We light this chalice to kindle our hearts and our minds.
All right, so this morning our story is about our chalice. It's all about why we have a flaming chalice and where it came from. What's its story? Our pictures are going to be up here. So look up there so everybody can see them. So before the flaming chalice was the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, it was the symbol of the Unitarian Service Committee. And the Service Committee, its main mission in 1940 was to help the Jewish people who needed rescuing from parts of Europe to be able to escape safely. So they knew that they needed to have some kind of a symbol that they could put on their documents and wear, put on their trucks, so that people knew when they saw that symbol that they were helpers. So we know, look up here for a minute and you'll see. Don't worry if I'm going a little off script, Cheryl. The symbol for the American Red Cross. People know this symbol all over the world. They know that that means they're helpers. They're safe and they can help you. So we knew that the Service Committee needed the same kind of symbol. So this morning you heard about the American Unitarian minister Waite Still Sharp and his wife Martha. They set up the first USC, Unitarian Service Committee office in Lisbon, Portugal, and they met up with another minister named Charles Joy. They met a man named Hans Deutsch, who was an artist who had fled from Austria, and because he was an artist, they asked him to create this symbol. So you'll see that this was probably what we believe to be the inspiration for that symbol. This was the cover of a gay men's magazine, a Swiss gay men's magazine. So we think that Hans, through the work of the Reverend Mark Bellatini, I think, recently brought this to light. This is probably where the idea, the inspiration for our symbol came from. But Hans then created this next symbol. And that was the first flaming chalice associated with Unitarians and Universalists. This was the symbol for the Unitarian Service Committee. So this symbol was put on their important documents because the people they were trying to help in Europe, the Jewish people, and everybody in Europe at that time needed to show papers, needed to show documents if they were traveling. And if your documents showed that you were a Jewish person, you could be arrested. So one of the things the Service Committee did is they created fake documents. And they knew that if they had an official-looking symbol on their documents, like this, that those people would be safer and more likely to be able to go on to where they needed to be. So they were grateful for this. They also turned this symbol into an emblem, and people wore them on their clothing so they could be recognized as, oh, those are the helpers. Now, to many people, this chalice represents hope, represents compassion, represents safety, and that's still true today. The service committee adopted a new symbol for a long time. It's here on my necklace, and it's here on the wall. So this became the symbol for the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee for a long time. Their current symbol looks like this. Can you see the two hands? The service committee today likes to, the way they work, their mission is they work with other people. So they don't just go into a place and say, we know how to fix things for you, we're gonna take over and we're gonna rescue you. Instead, they find people that are already trying to make good things happen and to change, to create more justice, and they work with them in partnership. So that's a beautiful new symbol for our current Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. In 1961, the Unitarian and Universalist churches decided to join together, and they knew they also needed a symbol. Now, the Unitarians didn't have a symbol up until this time. The Universalists had a symbol. It was a cross inside a circle. So you'll see that up here. That was the symbol for the Universalist churches. When the two churches came together in 1961, they started thinking about what could they have as their symbol. Finally, in 1976, they adopted this one. Now, we know so far we've seen a lot of different chalices. We know the chalices can look a lot of ways, but essentially our chalice is always going to have some kind of a vessel or a cup and a flame. So you'll see them in a lot of different images, but along the way we've adopted certain ones as our official image. So you'll see the next one is the current official symbol for the Unitarian Universalist Association. So the practice of lighting a chalice, we do that every morning in our worship service, but we also do it where, Katie? Where do we light a chalice every morning? Back in our classroom, right? Every time we start class, we light a chalice. And the children have been doing that for a very, very long time, long before we started lighting chalices in worship services. So we think the grown-ups got it from the children. And the children shall lead us. Now, the children in our congregation who become chalice lighters or kindlers of our flame on Sunday mornings, they have to go through a bit of learning. They have to learn the story that I just shared with you and other information stories about our flaming chalice and how it came to be and how it's been used over time. They also take the time to create their own chalices for their families and to light their own chalice lighting words. And Katie, when you are in the 3rd or 4th grade, you'll have the opportunity to do that too. This morning, so we don't just light our chalices, however, in worship services or in classes. Sometimes we light our chalices before a meeting begins, before we have a small group gathering, because it helps to remind us that we are Unitarian Universalists. It helps us to bring our principles into our meeting. It helps to remind us how we want to be with each other. And so sometimes families light chalices at home too, for those same reasons, if they have a special meal or a special gathering. I cannot think of a better time to light a chalice in our homes right now than right now. So today, you are all going to be able to go home with your own little chalice. And we're going to start with these people right here. I'm going to show you how to make one. This is a chalice kit. When you open it up, there's a couple things inside, so you have to be really careful when you open it. There is a little tea light. You don't need that yet, so put that aside. And then you have 2 little Velcro dots stuck together. They're sticky on one side. So when you take the dots apart, you're going to take the sticky off of one, take the plastic off the sticky, put it on the bottom of one side of the egg, put the little plastic piece inside, then take the little plastic piece off the other one, very small, sorry. Stick it on the other end of the egg. Also a chalice kit. Put that little piece of plastic inside so you can throw that away later. Then, there you've made your chalice. You can light your chalice. Put it right inside. So everybody up here on the carpet's going to have a chance to make one real quick, because I'm going to need you to include this in later on in the service. Make it now. And while you are doing that, we're going to do a little run through of a song we're going to also sing during the message this morning. One we all know. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. During our message this morning, we're going to take a break every now and then, and we're going to sing a little piece of the song. And when I sing that little piece of the song and you join with me, you can hold up your chalice. Okay? Keep it safe back at your seat for now.
The UUSC creates a special service every year to focus our intentions on their good work. I know that it may seem odd that our service today is not completely focused on the pandemic at hand, but perhaps we need something else to draw our attention today as well. And when I contemplated the appropriateness of today's message, I realized that we are indeed in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, a pandemic that affects all aspects of our world. Our jobs, our education, our play, and most certainly, those nonprofits that struggle under normal circumstances to bring the world a little closer to peace. The Reverend Mary Catherine Mourn, the UUSC president and CEO, writes, "We recognize that a crisis always magnifies inequity for families who are already navigating existing systems of oppression. Many families will experience diminished access to aid based solely on who they are, face increased xenophobic rhetoric, and bear undue economic burdens. Yet, as always, UUSC's mission compels us to seek out those who are overlooked and support them, particularly in times of uncertainty." And here begins today's message. When we think of social justice and human rights, we often think of words like resistance, bravery, fortitude, and transformation. Imagination is not usually one of the first words on that list, but it is actually essential to our work for justice. Imagination is an act of courage because it means daring to envision and strive toward a world that does not yet exist. It means thinking not just of how we can work within the current systems and norms, but what new regenerative systems and norms we can create. 80 years ago, in the face of rising Nazi repression, Unitarians imagined a different world, a different response from U.S. isolationism. They knew there was a beloved community that cared about human rights across the country and around the world, and then they asked themselves what they needed to do to get closer to that vision for the beloved community. And they asked themselves what they were willing to risk in order to live their values in the world. They chose to form and support the Unitarian Service Committee. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Now I realize I keep saying that they, but in reality we chose to form and support the Unitarian Service Committee. You chose to form and support the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. Those people 80 years ago were not separate or different from us. They were regular people living average lives, worried about their jobs and children and bills, just like us. They were overwhelmed by the state of the world in a time of fascism and war, anti-Semitism and racism, just like us, just like you. And when the opportunity arose for them to make a difference and affirm the inherent worth and dignity of all people across the world, they took action with their time, with their money, with their influence. Just like us, just like you do every time you write a letter to a politician, go to a protest, volunteer your time, or give your money. This little light of ours, we're gonna let it shine. For 80 years, our Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, your Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, has been working in partnership with those most directly impacted by injustice to imagine a different world, a beloved community where every person's rights are honored and protected. We joined with migrant workers in Texas in the 1940s as they fought against exploitation. We launched desegregation projects in Georgia and Florida in 1960. In 1978, UUSC sponsored the first congregational fact-finding mission to El Salvador as violence there escalated. In the 1980s, we sent emergency funds to ease the Ethiopian famine long before the story reached mainstream US news. We sent emergency medical equipment to Rwanda in the 1990s and then launched the Drumbeat for Darfur campaign in the 2000s to help end the genocide in Sudan. In 2010, we went to Haiti to assist with immediate relief after the earthquake and remain to partner in long-term recovery. And I believe we have a couple people in our congregation who went to Haiti with the UUSC to help as well. Scott and Carolyn. This little light of mine, ours, we're gonna let it shine. Today, UUSC works with organizations in Central America, Mexico, and the United States on the forefront of migrant justice, as we seek security for people who wish to remain in their home countries, safety for those traveling along the migrant trail, and justice once people reach the United States. We partner with First and Indigenous communities in the South Pacific, Louisiana, and Alaska, who are on the front lines of the climate change crisis, as their homes and way of life are threatened by rising sea levels and rising temperatures. We are working with Rohingya leaders as they seek justice and healing for their communities following genocide and forced displacement from their homeland by the Burmese government. And we are joining with the minority Haitian community in the Bahamas after the devastation of Hurricane Dorian as they seek to rebuild their lives with no access to government assistance. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I know sometimes, maybe a lot of the time, things can feel hopeless, like the world is moving farther and farther away from our values, from all the progress we have tried to make. At the time of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee's founding, what was officially known as the Unitarian Service Committee, the world gave few signs of moving in a better direction. The work of USC began in 1939 when Hitler's Germany was dragging all of Europe into war and laying the groundwork for the Holocaust. Thousands of refugees were already displaced from their homes and forced to flee religious and political persecution as the Nazis took power. When Martha and Waite Stell Sharp opened the first office of the USC in Prague, they met an embattled Unitarian community at the Unitaria Church, that had to preach their opposition to the Nazis in double meanings. During the German occupation of the city, the Nazi secret police began monitoring every sermon given at the Unitarian congregation, listening for subtle messages of dissent. A few years later, they found what they were looking for. In 1941, the minister of the Unitarian congregation, Norbert Čapek, was arrested and deported to the concentration camp at Dachau, where he was killed the following fall. Čapek had been personally named by Hitler on a list of 10,000 politically suspect persons. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Čapek wasn't the only figure associated with the founding of USC to make the ultimate sacrifice for human rights. USC's early work in Prague involved helping refugees apply for visas and process the other paperwork they would need to seek safety abroad. Similar to UUSC's current model of partnering with directly impacted communities, many of the service committee's first employees were Jewish refugees working to protect the rights of their community. At the time, Jewish people in Prague were already facing persecution under the Nazi occupation, and all the warning signs of the coming genocide were already in place. They therefore knew the risks they took by staying in the city to help others. Nevertheless, historian Elizabeth Subak writes, they delayed their own emigration efforts to help other refugees. Ultimately, none were able to emigrate or avoid deportation to concentration camps. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. In the face of genocide, religious persecution, political assassination, and all the worst atrocities the human imagination has ever devised, it was an act of indescribable courage for these women and men to hope for a different world. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. We have come as far as we have because justice seekers throughout time have continued to have the audacity to keep reaching toward another imagined possibility. At UUSC, we have joined with audacious, imaginative, regenerative people for the last 80 years, and we will continue this vital work for the next 80 years, and the 80 years after that. We will continue to go where justice calls, partnering with those most affected by disasters and human rights abuses. So long as Unitarian Universalists, people of conscience and moral imagination, continue to join with us, we will be here to join in the struggle, to lend our weight to bend the arc of the universe towards justice, to keep turning courageous hope into action. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Today we are celebrating the 80-year legacy of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, better known as the UUSC. UUSC is an international human rights organization grounded in Unitarian Universalism that has been a powerful force for justice since its founding in 1940 in response to the rise of Nazism. UUSC's work is based on a partnership model that centers the experience and leadership of the people who are most impacted by injustice. This partnership model includes financial support given in the form of grants to some of the most resilient, creative, and courageous groups of people you can imagine who are working for justice, often under very dangerous conditions. In addition, UUSC also supports and flanks their efforts in other ways. They arrange and fund convenings so people in similar struggles half a world away from each other can meet and compare strategies and learn from each other. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. UUSC does innovative research that bolsters partners' claims with hard data and with powerful personal stories about what they're living through. They help educate and then mobilize our members, people like us, to make us more effective advocates and activists, whether by lobbying Congress in Washington or accompanying asylum seekers in our own communities. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. And through the UU College of Social Justice, UUSC brings delegations to learn from our partners and sends volunteers with particular skill sets at their partners' request. Over the past year, for instance, UUSC has sent well over 100 Spanish-speaking volunteers to the border to help with the ongoing humanitarian crisis there. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. If some or all of this work intrigues you, now is your chance to be a part of this vital justice movement. UUSC is able to do all that it does because people like you support its mission. Gary and I are monthly contributors. There are so many worthy organizations doing wonderful work, but we feel like it's important for our faith to be present where the work is needed. A contribution of any level allows you to become a member of UUSC. And your support ensures that in these perilous times, with threats to human rights expanding on all sides, our response too can expand. We will have a special collection this morning on behalf of the UUSC. Checks can be made out to the UUSC, if anybody writes checks anymore. You can text to give for this special collection. The instructions are on the screen above. You can also make a contribution online later by going to uusc.org/UUSC-Sunday. Our special collection ushers will now receive your gifts. May the abundance of our gifts remind us that our religious inheritance is freedom. We will never rest until all who wish to be its children are sheltered. And as we are so moved, we say, Amen.
Love is not canceled. Conversation is not canceled. Connection is not canceled. Meals are not canceled. Laughter is not canceled. Singing is not canceled. All of these things will continue through the days to come as we learn to reach from our hearts and make connections in ways more deeply than we've even discovered to date. We have one another. We always will. We're even away from fist bumps now. I'm going to show you another way to send your love. Anybody follow Korean pop music? K-pop. It's all over. Yeah. You know what the K-pop band boys do? They send little hearts. Everybody do that. So now when you see someone you love, you've got this, you've got this, you've got all these things. You've got the bow. Now you've got K-pop hearts. We extinguish, oh, you're doing this part. We extinguish this flame.
But not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment that burns within us. As we now the good work of this congregation begins again. Let us strengthen one another for that work with love and friendship we share as we begin our time of hospitality. Please take a moment to greet one another gently, in kindness and in peace.
Till we meet again.
Shine on!